Autumn's Embrace, Chapter 13. The week leading up to Christmas Eve passed by in a blur of activity, each day bringing with it a flurry of preparations and excitement. The town of Willow Creek was fully alive with the holiday spirit. Its streets lined with twinkling lights and wreaths, shop windows decorated with festive displays, and the smell of pine and cinnamon filling the air. For Elliot, it felt like stepping into a picture-perfect holiday postcard, and the magic of the season seemed to settle into every corner of his heart. But as much as he loved the festivities and the sense of community that came with them, there was a quiet anticipation building inside him as Christmas Eve approached. Tonight, he would meet Lily's parents for the first time, and though he had always considered himself calm under pressure, the significance of the evening wasn't lost on him. He wanted to make a good impression, not just because he cared about how her parents saw him, but because this was another step forward in his relationship with Lily, a step that felt both exciting and nerve-wracking. Elliot had spent the better part of the afternoon getting ready, making sure everything was just right. He had picked out a simple but nice outfit, a dark sweater, and a pair of jeans, and had even gone as far as to pick up a bottle of wine as a small gift for Lily's parents. He was determined to show them that he was serious about Lily and about building a life with her in Willow Creek. As he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of his sweater, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. It had been a long time since he had cared this much about meeting someone's parents. But with Lily, everything felt different. He wanted to get to right. A knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts, and when he opened it, he found Lily standing there, bundled up in her coat and scarf, her cheeks flushed from the cold. She smiled up at him, her eyes bright with excitement, and Elliot's heart swelled at the sight of her. "You ready?" she asked, stepping inside to escape the cold. Elliot smiled, nodding. "I think so. You look beautiful, by the way." Lily blushed, her smile widening. "Thank you. You clean up pretty nicely yourself." They exchanged a quick kiss, and after a few minutes of gathering their things, they were on their way, walking hand in hand through the snowy streets of Willow Creek. The town was quiet now, most of the shops closed for the holiday, but the twinkling lights and the soft glow of the street lamps made everything feel magical. As they walked, Lily's excitement was palpable. "I know I've said this before, but I'm really glad you're coming tonight," she said, squeezing his hand gently. "It means a lot to me." Elliot smiled, feeling the warmth of her words settle in his chest. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." They arrived at Lily's parents' house a little after 6, the snow crunching under their boots as they made their way up the front steps. The house was warm and inviting, with soft yellow spilling out from the windows and the smell of roasting turkey wafting through the air. Wreaths adorned the front door, and strands of light twinkled from the eaves, adding to the festive atmosphere. Lily knocked, and within seconds the door swung open to reveal a woman in her mid-50s, with wavy brown hair just like Lily's, and a warm, welcoming smile. "Lily," she exclaimed, pulling her daughter into a tight hug. "I'm so glad you're here." Lily hugged her back, her mom smiling, lighting up her face. "Hi, Mom, this is Elliot." Her mother's eyes sparkled as she turned her attention to him. Extending a hand, "Elliot, it's so nice to finally meet you. I've heard so much about you." Elliot smiled, shaking her hand warmly. "It's a pleasure to meet you too, Miss Harper." "Please call me Carol," she insisted, stepping aside to let them in. Come in, it's freezing out there." As they stepped inside, Elliot was greeted by the cozy warmth of the Harper home. The scent of a Christmas feast filled the air: roast turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and all the trimmings. The living room was decorated with garlands, stockings hung by the fireplace, and a beautifully lit Christmas tree standing proudly in the corner. It was everything Elliot had imagined a family Christmas to be, and he felt a surge of gratitude for being welcomed into such a warm, loving home. Carol led them into the living room, where Lily's father was busy setting the table. He was a tall man with silver hair and kind eyes, and when he saw Lily and Elliot, he set down the dishes he was holding and approached them with a smile. "Lily," he said, pulling his daughter into a hug, "it's so good to see you." Lily beamed, hugging him tightly. "Hi, Dad." After they embraced, Lily turned to Elliot. "Dad, this is Elliot." Her father extended a hand, his grip firm but friendly. "Elliot, I've heard a lot about you." "Likewise, sir," Elliot said, shaking his hand. "It's great to finally meet you." Lily's father smiled, clapping him on the shoulder. "Call me Frank, and welcome to our home." Elliot felt a wave of relief wash over him. Both of Lily's parents were warm and welcoming, and he could already tell that tonight would be a good night. As they settled into the living room, Carol brought out a tray of appetizers, cheese, crackers, and a variety of holiday treats, and they all gathered around, chatting and laughing as they waited for dinner to finish cooking. Throughout the evening, Elliot found himself falling into an easy conversation with Lily's parents. Frank was an easygoing man, full of stories about his own time growing up in Willow Creek, and Carol had a warm, nurturing energy that made Elliot feel like he had known her for years. It wasn't long before the initial nervousness he had felt melted away, replaced by a sense of belonging. Lily stayed by his side, her hand resting lightly on his arm as they talked, and every now and then Elliot would catch her looking at him with a soft smile that made his heart skip a beat. He couldn't help but feel that this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Dinner was a feast, with more food than Elliot had ever seen in one sitting. Carol had gone all out preparing a traditional Christmas Eve meal that included everything from roasted turkey to stuffing, cranberry sauce, and green bean casserole. As they sat around the table, passing plates and sharing stories, Elliot felt a warmth settle over him that had nothing to do with the fire burning in the hearth. This feeling of family, of love, of connection, was what he had been searching for all along. After dinner, they gathered in the living room, where Carol passed out hot cocoa and Christmas cookies. The fire crackled in the fireplace, casting a warm glow over the room as they settled in for a night of holiday movies and laughter. It was simple, but it was perfect. At one point, as they sat on the couch, Lily leaned over and whispered in Elliot's ear, "How are you feeling?" Elliot smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I feel great. Your parents are wonderful." Lily's eyes softened, and she leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulders. "I'm glad. They really like you." Elliot's heart swelled at her words, and he pressed a soft kiss to the top of her head. "I like them too." As the evening wound down and the fire burned low, Carol and Frank began cleaning up, insisting that Lily and Elliot relax. They sat together on the couch, watching the flames flicker in the hearth, their hands intertwined. The house was quiet now. The only sound, the soft crackle of the fire, and the occasional clink of dishes being washed in the kitchen. Lily turned to him after a while, her eyes filled with warmth. "Thank you for coming tonight," she said, softly. "It meant a lot to me." Elliot smiled, his thumb gently stroking the back of her hand. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world." For a moment, they simply sat there, wrapped in the warmth of the fire and the love that surrounded them. And in that moment, Elliot realized that this quiet, simple life in Willow Creek, surrounded by people he cared about, was everything he had ever wanted. As the last of the embers burned down and the house grew still, Elliot pulled Lily a little closer, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Merry Christmas, Lily," he whispered. She smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "Merry Christmas, Elliot." And as they sat together watching the flames flicker in the hearth, Elliot knew that this was the beginning of something beautiful, something lasting. It was the kind of love he had always dreamed of, and he couldn't wait to see what the future held for them. This was home. This was forever. If you like this chapter of Autumn's Embrace, please leave a like, comment, and don't forget to share and follow, and stay tuned for chapter 14 of Autumn's Embrace.